Told you it was true, from a certain point of view.
A prophecy that misread could have been.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Unlearn what you have learned.
Hey there, my fellow Jedi and Padawan friends. This is Jason with Star Wars and Philosophy, and we are back with another episode. And today I wanted to do something a little bit different, something I've not seen anybody quite really break down and do. But I kind of thought through this, and a lot of people criticize The Force Awakens as it was kind of reminiscent of A New Hope. Not just A New Hope, though. There were elements of Empire Strikes Back and even Return of the Jedi that we've kind of taken a look in some of the other scenes and videos that we've done. But some people have been so critical that they kind of said it's kind of like a cookie cutter or almost like they redid A New Hope, and that's not really true. There were certain elements, and the characters also seemed very reminiscent of the original trilogy, and even in some cases the prequels. And so what I've done is I've got the major characters that I wanted to talk about that I believe are interrelated with each other from the new trilogy as well as the original trilogy, and that there are characters on here that what they have done is that they've kept the nostalgia of the past. They've kept elements of different characters intact, but they've spread out those elements amongst different characters, and those characters, the new characters, have elements of several characters as well. And so I just wanted to kind of walk through this and what I mean by this, and I give you a visual so that you can kind of see it, and I'll try and make it cool with, seeing pictures and all that kind of stuff also, so that you can kind of get more out of this. Help support this channel financially and help us grow. You can click the subscribe button, click the bell, and you're going to get notifications. You can click the thumbs up, you can click in the comments, you can share with your friends on social media. At the end of my videos, you're going to see recommended videos, and thank you so much for your support. So we're going to go ahead and start with Luke. So Luke is in the new trilogy, not the Luke of the old trilogy. And that's kind of disappointing to a lot of people. They were expecting maybe the Luke of the Legends canon, the one who's just the most powerful Jedi ever, and we may get to see a little bit of that in Episode 8, but let's face it, Mark Hamill's getting old, and so what they had to do is make him kind of the old sagey character in this new trilogy. And so we're going to see Episode 8 that he's going to start Rey's training. He seems a bit hesitant, but didn't Yoda also seem hesitant in Empire Strikes Back when he started his training? So he's kind of the old Yoda character, but he's also got that Obi-Wan kind of hermit. He's not really into the Jedi thing anymore, and kind of doesn't even remember that life, doesn't want to remember that life, just like Obi-Wan did at the beginning of A New Hope. But it's not really that simple either. So let's take Yoda's character, and Yoda from the original trilogy, you kind of got a combination between Luke and Maz Kanata. Maz Kanata has kind of the alienish, old sagey element that we saw in Yoda and we loved in Yoda in the original trilogy, but that's in Maz now. And then when you get to Obi-Wan's character from the original trilogy, that's kind of split up into two different people. Or three different people, really, because you got Luke, the old hermity kind of guy, but then you also got this other old guy named Lor Santeca, and he dies within the first 5 minutes. We go, who was that? And then we have to read about him in all these reference books. But in those first 5 minutes, something very, very powerful happens. And that is that Lor Santeca, a follower of the Church of the Force, a believer in the Jedi, he sacrifices his life. he is killed by Kylo Ren, and he's kind of integral. We've talked about this in a number of videos. I believe he's very integral into the awakening that happens there on Jakku, namely in Rey and Finn. Some would argue Finn as well. But generally, there is an awakening that happens there on Jakku, and I believe it can be traced to the death of Lord San Tekka. But Obi-Wan also had that wise father figure to Luke in the original trilogy, and that was played by Han Solo. And that's going to be key as we go into Episode 8, because Han and his death has really upset Rey. He was the first, father figure that she really had in her life. And so that is how that kind of breaks down. You see, Luke is kind of a combination of Obi-Wan and Yoda is kind of a combination of Luke and Maz, and Obi-Wan's a combination of Han and Lor San Tekka. Moving on, Kylo Ren is kind of predictable. He's kind of the Vader of the new trilogy. In fact, he kind of worships Vader. He's related to Vader. He wants to be Vader. But they're different in that Kylo is getting tempted towards the light side, whereas Vader was always pulled by the dark side. So you've got similar but different. And now we go on to Rey. Now Rey is kind of like a combination of Luke from the original trilogy, okay, the main, hero's journey, call to adventure, heroine's journey if you want, and the Skywalker lightsaber calls out to her, and she's the one who's kind of the hero of the story, because the story's all about finding Luke. She's the one who finds Luke, hands the lightsaber over to her. She's the one who's going to continue on in that whole journey. But she's also like the Leia of the original trilogy, that strong female character that's in the lead. And so you got an interesting combination there. But again, not that simple, because when you got to go to Luke's character from the original trilogy, well, you got to also throw Finn into that mix. Okay, Finn, and how is Finn like Luke? Finn, think about how he's going to start Episode 8 in a bacta tank, just like Luke started Episode 5. And then you also have Finn is the first person to fight with Luke's lightsaber, okay, the Skywalker lightsaber. In fact, somebody did an awesome video where they followed the choreography of the lightsaber duel between Finn and Kylo Ren, and they matched it up to almost strike per strike to the battle between Luke and Vader in The Empire Strikes Back. And so that is an interesting, another tie-in to Finn is that he was the one who went and rescued Rey. He's the one who came back for Rey, just like Luke did at the beginning of the trilogy for Leia. Okay? So when you get to Leia's character of the original trilogy, then she's kind of a combination now between Rey and Poe. And Poe, because he is the one who has a strong family tie to the Resistance, and I would bet money that the way that they're going to deal with Carrie Fisher's death is that they're going to have her die in some capacity, and that Poe is going to step in as the leader of the Resistance. I would almost be willing to bet money on that. So going on, now we've got Snoke. And just for fun, now Snoke is basically Palpatine of the original trilogy. They weren't as clever with the dark side, but Snoke is very different. He's not a Sith. We've been told that, and that he's a humanoid. And that we don't know how far back his origins go. They could go back all the way to the Old Republic or whatever. He could have been the dark presence that Palpatine was sensing out there in the unknown regions of space. But Snoke kind of wants to keep this balance between light and dark, something that Palpatine kind of just went full on into the darkness. And so, similar but different. But just for fun, I just thought it would be fun just to highlight all of the people that Snoke has been theorized to be. He's been theorized to be Luke. He's been theorized to be Kylo from the future, teaching himself. That was a crazy one. And I got to do a video soon just looking back on all the crazy Snoke theories and things that are going on. And then you got Leia. People really thought that Leia was really Snoke. I don't even know how that works. I have to go back and watch that video again just for fun. They theorized that he was Vader, and they theorized that he actually was Palpatine, amongst 100 other theories. So that's Snoke. And then we go on to Leia. Leia is kind of like the Mon Mothma character in the original trilogy. She's kind of the leader of the Resistance. And what I noticed is that they must have been wanting to kind of keep the nostalgia, but not really shift the characters of Leia and Han too much. They had to do something different with Luke, but they didn't really want to shift those characters too much. So Leia is kind of like the Mon Mothma of the series. And then you have Finn. Now, we talked about Finn being like Luke from the original trilogy already, but he's also kind of like Han from the original trilogy. Why do I say that? Because Maz Kanata, when she sees him, she says, I see the eyes of somebody who wants to run. Okay? Han comes into the story in the original trilogy out of nowhere, and he kind of sticks around because he keeps on getting promised this reward. And Finn, he's defecting from the First Order, doesn't really want to fight in this battle, but then all of a sudden he gets attached to Rey, and he wants to be a big deal in the Resistance, and so he's kind of like Han in that sense. But then Han from the original trilogy is kind of a combination now between Finn and Poe, which means that Poe is kind of the combination between Leia and Han. And so you got this kind of combination. How is he like Han? Well, think about who is the best pilot in the Resistance, and really, I think, ever in the history of Star Wars. Poe is incredible. And so now we go into Han's character. And so we talked about how Han is kind of like Obi-Wan, but then Han is also kind of like Han from the original. They didn't really want to change his character that much because, well, he's going to die in the first episode. And so let's just for fun, I thought it would also be cool just to look at who he's related to on this board. He's obviously the father of Kylo Ren and the husband to Leia, which means that he is the son-in-law of Vader, and he's also related to Luke. And so that is kind of my breakdown of the characters from the new trilogy, how they relate to the characters in the original trilogy. And so as you see, a lot of overlap, a lot of the similar character traits, but you have different character arcs, different combinations, and different story arcs. And who knows? This may completely change, completely be blown out of the water when we get to episode 8 and beyond. But I want to know what you think. Go ahead and put those comments down below. Did I miss some parallels? Do you feel like I judged this accurately? Who is your favorite character in the new trilogy? Who would you like to see more of? And what character trait from the original trilogy do you feel like is missing? And do you want it to come back in this new trilogy? So put your comments down below.
Now, fulfill your destiny.
I encourage you, if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share this video with others and this channel with others. It helps every time you do that. It actually helps the channel out financially, and it helps us to grow and get in front of others.